Hi, good morning everyone. Welcome to this topic of user creation. In this topic, we are going to see how to create a user. Okay, so what we are doing here is we are going to create users. Okay, there are multiple ways we can create user. The first one that we are going to see here is using the command called useradd. Okay, so using this command, we are going to see how we can add a user. Okay, so adding a user in the system that we are going to see. And along with the user add, once the user is created, we may be interested in modifying the user. So we can say user mod. There could be a requirement that once the user leaves the company, you may be asked to delete the user. So userdel. This is a single word. Okay, so that is about the users. But when we create users, there is one thing called groups as well. So we create the groups also. Okay, so because user will be a part of group so that they are organized, so we'll create a groups also. So we can map these users to either an existing group or create a new group for them. So how do we create a new group? We can use the command called group add. Okay, so but in case if we need to modify some values in the group, we can just use the command group mod to modify, and if the groups are no more needed, we can delete the group del. Okay, so let's see these commands plus one more command that is extremely important and is used on day-to-day basis is the password change command. So using this command we can change or set a password for the user. Okay, so this is one very important command and used almost daily, depending on how frequently you forget your password or how frequently the company policy forces you to change a password. So depending on that, you use this command. Okay, now let's create a user. Okay, so we can use this command called user add command. But with user add, there are few things which we need to take note of. There are numerous options for user add. So we'll use an option called -m. That means we are telling that is generate a home directory under /home by default. Okay, so let's create a user by name, say test1. Okay, and we want to, instead of defining a primary group, we can define a primary group for the user also. So you can say, okay, this is the group, this should be an existing group, and we can specify, if you want, we can specify a password also here if you like. So we can say that, okay, the password for this user is, say, this is the default password for the user, and we can just press enter. Okay, so if the user is already existing, you will get this type of message. Okay, let's create a user by name test2. You can see that the user is created. How do you validate whether the user is there? We can just say su-test2, and if you just type ID, you will see that you have created a user by name test2, which has a primary group of SAPCs, and these are the default groups for the users. So one thing to take note of these defaults, so from where these defaults comes, we can find out that information as well. Say if we type this command called show defaults, it will say that, okay, so under this ID it cannot find this. So let's run with the root ID. Okay, so with this root ID, let's execute the same command, useradd show defaults, and here you can see that the default group is this. If you are not specifying the group name, this is the group name that it gets. Okay, so let's create one more user and see how the default group works. Say user add -m. Let's say we create a user test3 and we don't specify other parameters, and let's don't specify the password also. Okay, now you can see the user is created, but we need to change the password for test3. So this is where the root user can change its password and it can assign whatever password required as per the company policy. Okay, so the password is set. Now let's log in or test whether this user is there, su-test3, and if you just type ID here, you will see that the ID for the previous user that we created. Okay, let's see what was the ID. You can see the UID is 1003. Group, we explicitly defined it. Okay, now in this case, you get the next UID number 10004. GID, we did not define it, but it has picked up from the defaults. Okay, then other groups is added by default from this. So these two groups are added automatically. So this is how we create a user using useradd command. Okay, then there is a command called usermod command, using which you can modify a user's parameter. Okay, so let's use this command usermod. If we use this command using any other user, you will see that this command is not found. Okay, but let's run it with the root ID. So we are going to use this command called usermod, and we want to modify the group of this user. Okay, so usermod for which user? Test3. What we want to do? Modify the group to say SAP sys. Now let's do an su-test3, and if you press ID here, you will see that the GID for this user is changed. So this is how we change the GID, okay, using usermod command. So any of the user parameter can be changed from this except the UID. Okay, now let's look at another command called userdel command. So userdel command is for deleting a particular user. Let's say that this user3 is no more needed and I need to delete it. So I will use this command called userdel and the username, and you can see that this user is deleted. How do we check that? We'll just say su-test3. You can see this user doesn't exist. Okay, so that is pretty much I wanted to cover in this particular topic. Thank you for joining me and have a nice day. Bye bye.